Sony Entertainment hack. Okay, that how attackers were able to get into your Sony networks and how they were able to get the private info from their internal servers to the attacker servers, and they were able to publish that info over the internet. Okay, it was back in 2014. So at that time, security was not a major issue for most of the organization. We had very low level of security controls at that time. Let's see. So you might have known that the attacker is your GOP, Guardian of Peace, and they are sitting over the internet. Now, this is a very standard architecture. We have two firewalls, we have one DMZ. What is a DMZ? Demilitarized zone. Okay. What is the purpose of DMZ? The purpose of the DMZ is to not allow your people over the internet to access your internal servers. So, whatever my public facing servers will be, I will put it in your DMZ, your militarized zone, so that it will create a separation between your traffic from internet and from your internal network. People cannot access from the internet your internal network. So this is the major purpose of your DMZ. So whatever the public facing servers are of your Sony or any other provider who is using Sony server, it will be sitting in your DMZ. So as a normal user, someone who is over the internet, if I have a request for one of the server, this is how my request will go. It will go through this firewall and it will reach your DMZ. Now in your DMZ, you have your servers. Request will reach your server. Server will respond back to your request and I will get a reply back through this firewall. Okay. So I cannot reach this particular point as a attacker. Okay. Even if I'm able to bypass DMZ, another firewall is setting that will drop my request before reaching to your internal network. So here you can see as an attacker, my first goal is to get access to the traffic of DMZ. Why? Because let's say if I have a server, let's say this particular server X. Okay. Now people from the internet can also access this. If this particular person A, if he or she also wants to access that server, request will go from A through this firewall to your DMZ, then to this X server, then again through your firewall back to your A. Okay. So if as an attacker, I am able to get access to your DMZ traffic, someone from the internal network making any request for the resources present at DMZ, I can get to know that. Okay. What was the first step of your attacker to bypass this firewall and get access to your DMZ traffic? This was the first purpose of your attacker. Now, again, this thing is all part of information gathering, right? That we have a DMZ, we have one firewall only. We only need to bypass this thing to get access to the traffic from internal network over the DMZ. This thing is all part of your information gathering. Once you have enough intel, it becomes very easy for you to work on that intel. So here what attackers did, once they got to know that they need to bypass this firewall just to get access to the DMZ traffic, they attacked this thing, they bypassed this particular network, and now attacker have access to your DMZ traffic. This was your stage one. Okay. Now since I know if someone makes a request from internal network to any of the resource present at DMZ, I will get to know that. So what attacker did, this particular person A every day was making a request to a news website whose server was hosted inside this DMZ. Okay. So website name was invitimes.com. This website server was present at your DMZ. Okay. And this particular person A every day he or she was making a request to this website just to get access to the latest news. Because I have access to the traffic, I got to know that. Okay. So now my second step is attack this thing. Why? Because when A makes request to nytimes.com, okay, in the response, I can send a malicious request. Okay, I can send a malware to A. So once I got to know about this, second thing was attacker attacked this and got access to your nytimes.com. Okay, so now attacker has access to this also. This was your second step. Once I got access to invitimes.com, what happened? The next day, when A made a request to invitimes.com. Okay, so let me remove this thing just a sec. Okay, so after the second part, when A made a request for invitimes.com, in the response, what we did? We added your malware. The job of this malware was to give you backdoor access. Okay, so we can say we added a Trojan. Okay, just to simply understand this thing, we added a Trojan in the response that will give me backdoor access. So once your Trojan is present over here, it will give you backdoor access. The backdoor means CNC. As an attacker, now I have access to this particular system. Okay, so from this system, I studied the internal network and then I started my lateral movement. So from A to B, from B to this network, from D to this network, from like this. Very slowly, I started to compromise the internal network. Okay, so till now, I have access to your internal network. Okay, so you can say now this is a compromised network. Now, on this network, there are terabytes of information. Okay, there are terabytes of information. So, I, as an attacker, let's say this is my server, I cannot transfer all that info to my server because information is in terabytes, a very large size. So, I cannot do this thing. Okay, so I need to come up with something which will become untraceable for your Sony people. So what I did, let's imagine you guys access Facebook. Okay. everyone in this particular meeting access Facebook application. So let's say I'm targeting Deepak's organization. Okay. So what I did, I attacked Facebook server, and when Deepak was making a request, in the response through the Facebook server, I added a malware to Deepak's phone or Deepak's laptop. Now, other than Deepak, we are also using Facebook, and we are not connected to Deepak or Deepak's organization, but still we are using Facebook. Similarly, at that time, not just this particular person A, there were millions of people who were using nytimes.com just to get access to the latest news. So, what attacker did, he compromised around 2 lakh systems who were using nytimes.com. Okay, so let's say this is all the people who are using nytimes.com. Okay, they are all the people who are using nytimes.com. So whenever they made a request in response, what I did, I added a malware. Through that malware, I got command and control of each and every machine. And on day one, I told you, if I have a command and control over my target machine, that machine is called as either a bot or a zombie. Okay. Now, what I did, once I have access to every machine, I created a network. I connected these machines. Okay. So this network is called as your botnet. And at that time, it was around 2 lakh machines. So from this particular network, I started retrieving the information to your internal network. Okay. So I started sending information to every system in very small bytes, and then through these my server. Okay, so this is how attacker got all the information from your internal network. Now another thing is, I want to remove my trace because I have compromised most of the systems around that particular internal network. So I need to remove my trace. So what I did, I used a malware called as cleaner or wiper. Okay, the job of this particular malware is to delete the files present at a particular place. For example, if I set a path, let's say I set a C drive path on this malware and I execute this thing on your system. So what will happen? All the files that are present in your C drive path, it will be completely deleted. Okay. So this is one malware. Second malware I used was your logic bomb. Okay. Logic bombs, you can say your schedule bombs, just like your Windows scheduler. Okay. For your updates. For example, in my update scheduler, I set a time that on Tuesday at 5 p.m. automatically, if an update is present, it should execute. Similarly, in logic bombs, whatever time you set, at that time it will execute. So I added my wiper in your logic bomb. I set it for a time and I added a message. You have been hacked by GOP. This was the message. And the time was whenever a system starts, okay, in the morning, this particular malware should explode, and both the cleaner and your message should be displayed on the target. Okay, so once my attack was completed, I added this malware, and on the next morning of the attack, on every machine in your Sony network, okay, it was displaying a message that you have been hacked by GOP. And this is how they got to know, the Sony people got to know that they have been actually hacked by someone. Okay, so again, This process is not a 1 day or 2 day process. Okay, it took around 3 years. It took around 3 years for the attacker to retrieve your information and clear their traces. Now, what was the motive? The motive was your revenge. Okay, attacker group was Guardian of Peace, GOP. Motive, revenge. Okay, method, we have already added backdoor access through malware. Okay, and weakness was your person A using DMZ resource. Okay, these are the complete scenario related to your Sony attack. So let me minimize a bit so you can see all the things in a single picture. Okay, so here you can see. Here we have 200 systems. And why they did that? Because Sony released a documentary which was deframing the leader of North Korea. Okay. So just to take revenge for that, they attacked the Sony network. They got access to all the latest copyright films, your copyright documentaries, their upcoming movie projects. They got access to all the data and they uploaded it free on internet. Okay, so the purpose was not to gain some money from Sony. Okay, it was not for financial benefit. Whatever they got, they uploaded it free over the internet. So here the purpose is revenge, just to take revenge. That how they were deframing their leader. They attacked the network and got access to info present at that network. Now this is for Sony Entertainment. Okay, Sony have multiple operations. So this attack was on Sony Entertainment. And one more task I'm adding. Read about SolarWind attack. Why? Because this attack was on a security organization. Okay. So if you attack someone who is providing you security, that is again a very big thing. It took place in 2021 December or 2020 December. Again, a very good attack to read about. Okay, so this was a supply chain attack. See, first thing is, if I have been attacked, there will be major problem within my operations because I have to stop lot of things which are already compromised. I have to separate those things from my network. So I will face a lot of problem around my operation. Second thing is, if sensitive data is lost, someone can take legal action around that. Okay. Then I will be having reputational damage. For example, we all are using Gmail, and tomorrow you got to know that Gmail has been compromised. So we will again start looking for alternative because now we know Gmail is not that secure. So that is a very big reputational damage to Google. And if users are not using your service, you will face financial loss. Okay, so these are the four major impacts that the organization will face during or after the attack. Okay, operational, legal, reputational, and financial.